The internet was supposed to set us free. Now it's being carved up like territory. The dream was a global web, open, borderless, equal access for all. But that's not what we got. Today, the internet is being split by governments, by platforms, by infrastructure you will never see, and policies you never agree to. Some sites are blocked, some voices are buried, some content is filtered before it even reaches you. And in some parts of the world, a protest can vanish with the flick of a switch, not by law, but by bandwidth. This episode uncovers the hidden architecture of control, from private undersea cables to algorithmic firewalls and nation backed shutdowns. The web isn't free, it's fractured, and the question is no longer who can access the internet, but who owns it. We used to think of the internet as the wide open space, a global commons, no borders, no gatekeepers, no passports required, just a place where anyone, everywhere could publish, connect, explore. That was the dream, and for a while, it actually felt true. But something has shifted. The open web is closing. Bit by bit, silently, the internet is being carved up. Firewalls, paywalls, black boxes, content bans, algorithmic filters. The question we should be asking now isn't just what the internet does, it's who controls it. At first, it was simple, a bunch of websites, mostly text, a few static images. You typed in a URL, you got what you asked for. But as the internet grew, power started concentrating. Infrastructure became invisible. A few companies started controlling what we saw, where we clicked, how fast pages loaded. Think about search. One company dominates that space so completely, we don't even say, look it up anymore. We say, Google it. That's not just a tool, that's cultural dominance. Now, zoom out. What used to be thousands of small sites and forums are now a handful of massive platforms. Social media isn't just a feature anymore, it is the internet for a huge portion of the world. News, entertainment, relationships, work, all flowing through apps built by a few tech giants. If they tweak an algorithm, entire businesses rise or fall. If they change a policy, voices get silenced or amplified overnight. And these decisions, they happen in rooms most of us will never see. But it's not just private companies. Governments have noticed this shift too. Some of them want more control. China has its Great Firewall, a highly sophisticated system that filters and blocks what citizens can access online. Russia has pushed to isolate its digital infrastructure from the global web. India, Turkey, Iran, they have all passed laws to demand that platforms comply with the local content rules or face shutdown. This isn't theoretical, it's happening now. The global internet is being broken into pieces, not by accident, but by design. Some call this digital sovereignty, the idea that countries should control the data and content within their borders. It sounds fair on the surface, but there is a blurry line between sovereignty and censorship. When does protecting your citizens become controlling them? When does managing your digital space turn into silencing dissent or rewriting truth? And then there is the infrastructure layer, the physical stuff, undersea cables, cloud storage, data centers. Most of the internet's backbone is owned by private corporations or a handful of powerful states. That means if tensions rise, access can be weaponized. We've already seen examples where governments restrict internet access to shut down protests. Sometimes they block platforms outright. Sometimes they throttle speeds until people just give up trying to get online. That's not just inconvenience, that's control at scale. Even the protocols of the internet, the stuff that makes it work, are starting to reflect power struggles. Standards bodies, naming systems, DNS infrastructure, these were once run by small technical communities. Now they are geopolitical flashpoints. Who decides what domains are allowed? Who controls the root servers? Who has the authority to say what counts as secure? These aren't small questions anymore. They affect national security, information freedom, economic development. They shape what kind of internet is possible tomorrow. What's wild is that most of us don't think about this stuff. We use the internet like it's just there, always on, always open. But behind the screen, a quiet war is playing out, a tug of war between private corporations, national governments, and even loosely organized activist groups. And each of them has a different idea of what the internet should be. Some want it free and open, some want it profitable, some want it control, and the rest of us were stuck in the middle, living with the consequences of choices we never got to vote on. It's easy to forget just how much of the internet we interact with every day is not truly ours. We post on platforms we don't own, store files on servers we can't access, and rely on algorithms we will never fully understand. When something breaks, we wait for a fix. When something disappears, we rarely get an explanation. We don't own the digital space we live in, we rent it, and the landlords are few, powerful, and increasingly untouchable. Consider how we think about access. In theory, anyone with a connection can reach the same global internet, but in practice, access is shaped by filters, some legal, some algorithmic, and some commercial. Maybe a government blocks a website. Maybe a company decides your content violates terms of service. Maybe your search results quietly bury important information because the algorithm decided you wouldn't engage. These aren't glitches, they are features, subtle systems of control built into the fabric of how the web works now. And if this system control isn't obvious, it's not someone standing at your digital door saying no entry. It's more like the door never appearing in the first place. It's information that never surfaces, opportunities that never reach you, voices that get slowly drowned out, not through censorship, but through silence. Let's not forget economic access either. As more of the internet moves behind paywalls, subscriptions, and gated content, a class divide is forming. Those who can afford the full experience and those who get a fragmented, ad filled version. This isn't just about entertainment or convenience, it's about education, career growth, financial tools, and public discourse. When essential knowledge lives behind a paywall, inequality doesn't just persist, it expands. There is also the problem of scale. When platforms serve billions, their decisions can't be personal. They have to be automated, streamlined, efficient. But that efficiency comes at a cost. Nuance is lost, context is ignored. People are turning to data points, flagged, scored, sorted, sometimes banned, with little room for discussion. It's no longer a digital town square. It's more like a sprawling mall with private security and ever changing rules. What's even stranger is how much responsibility these platforms have ended up shouldering, not just for what content gets shown, but for what is truth. Think about how much news, science, and history is now filtered through a handful of apps. In many places, social media is the primary source of news. And that means these companies are making real time decisions about what's credible, what's harmful, and what's allowed to be said. They're acting like editors, regulators, and referees, all without being elected, all without clear oversight. At the same time, governments want more say, especially when the information threatens their authority. They pressure platforms to remove posts, block users, or promote state narratives. In some cases, they demand backdoor access or surveillance powers. And the companies, they're stuck in the middle, juggling free speech, local laws, PR, and their bottom line. This tug of war creates a confusing, unstable internet, one where content is removed in one country but available in another, where activists can use a platform to organize until they can't, where terms of service change overnight and entire communities are erased without warning. And still, we carry on as if this system is normal, as if this is just the price of being online. But that sense of inevitability, that feeling of this is just how it works now, is part of the problem. Because the moment we stop asking who is in charge, is the moment the balance of power tilts too far to one side. The truth is, we're not just users anymore, we are the product. Our attention is sold, our behavior is tracked, and our choices are shaped in ways we barely notice. That's not an internet we own, that's an internet that owns us. If this all feels overwhelming, that's not a coincidence. The internet was never supposed to be simple. It was designed to be open, messy, and distributed. And for a while, it was. But over time, power consolidated, slowly, then all at once. And now, we find ourselves living inside systems that feel too big to challenge, too essential to question. But that's exactly why we need to talk about it. Because there are alternatives. There are countries trying to build their own internet architectures, their own social platforms, their own cloud systems, not as copies of Silicon Valley, but as expressions of digital independence. There are communities experimenting with decentralized networks that don't rely on central authority. There are activists, coders, lawyers, and educators working to keep the web open, transparent, and inclusive. These movements might seem small, but so did the early internet. Change doesn't have to mean starting from scratch. It can mean demanding more transparency about algorithms. It can mean pushing for stronger privacy laws. It can mean building platforms that are accountable to people who use them, not just the shareholders. It can mean treating digital rights like human rights, because increasingly, that's what they are. The ownership of the internet isn't just a technical question, it's a social one. It's about who has the right to shape the flow of ideas, who gets to decide what's visible and what's hidden, who builds the tools that mediate almost every part of our lives. These aren't issues we can afford to ignore, not when they touch everything from elections to educations to protest to personal identity. And maybe the scariest part is how invisible it's all become. We don't feel the weight of those decisions in our hands. We feel it's in what's missing, in the post that never reaches, in the stories that disappear, in the quiet narrowing of what we think the world looks like. But the internet isn't finished. It's not a fixed thing. It's still evolving, still contested, and that means it's still ours, at least partly, if we are willing to fight for it. Ownership doesn't have to mean domination, it can mean stewardship, care, participation, and accountability. In the next episode, we will explore what happens when platforms become more than tools, when they start looking like countries with citizens, economies, and borders of their own. Because if Google and Meta have more users than most nations, maybe it's time to ask, are these platforms the new world powers? Thanks for watching.